So welcome to this FPS one tap guide. The reason I'm making this is because I think most people struggle with this game, but not for the reason that they should be struggling. This game is really cool, but it is a bit different than most FPS games. So this FPS game doesn't have much movement tech. So if you're on this game, you're thinking, what are the movements like? The movement is basically just jumping. Like, honestly, there's no sliding around. There's no, crazy movement tech or jump pads or stuff like that. It is just literally jumping around. So the biggest thing in this game that you can do is just jump and jump and jump around. That is going to be your number one biggest movement tech. And it is different to how other games are played because your jump is actually pretty slow. So you do have to be careful to not, jump at a way that is super slow because you don't want to leave yourself vulnerable. Now, since there's not much to talk about movement, we can talk about the weapons. So for the weapons, you only have two weapons. You got your primary, your secondary, and your knife. Now, if you are wondering about what weapons to use, your knife is actually super useful because your knife is the one that actually is the only thing that gives you any sort of movement speed buff. So you can see I'm moving here normally, and then as soon as I switch to my knife, I get a speed up. So if you want to switch to your knife because you don't see any enemies, and then you want to switch back to your sniper the moment you do see enemies, that is going to be probably the only tip that you do see when it comes to movement. But like I said, on primaries and secondaries, the primary is your sniper rifle. This is, of course, what you want to be using at all times. Switching to your secondary doesn't really make sense. The reason is because your secondary is essentially, a gun that does reload slightly faster, but the damage is 50% less, and that damage is often not worth dealing. So unless you're in a really high stress situation, you don't want to be switching to this because you're often not going to get the kill. It just means they now know where you are, and they're probably going to run away. So it's important to know that your secondary is pretty much useless because you have to hit them twice to be able to get a kill, when in reality, you could have just used your main sniper to get that kill. So I got to be honest, the sniper is the go-to weapon of choice. It is super useful. Now, what most people also don't realize is that you can actually hip fire in this game. So if you do manage to hip fire, you will be able to get a kill, and it does still count as like a one-shot kill. So there's no damage fall off in this game, which means, yeah, you just one tap and you do get a kill. So yeah, the sniper is pretty useful. Of course, if you aim in with the scope, you have a much greater chance of killing someone because your enemy is bigger on the screen. You're going to be able to kill them. And that is what I found to be, much more useful. Like I said, if you're in a close quarters environment, you can hip fire, but hip firing is just not good because when you're hip firing, you just don't usually get that many kills. And I've tried hip firing and it just doesn't work as well as going into the scope and sniping. So it's completely up to you guys, of course, how you want to play the game. But just for me, sniping with the actual scope is what makes the most sense. Okay, now this is a game that is super fun to play once you do get the hang of it because every kill is a one tap, and as long as you are moving around the map with your knife, getting your enhanced speed, and you're able to hit shots, it is something that is super useful. So I would say that depending on the device that you play this, it is a pretty basic game. You don't need like a super crazy device in terms of stats or whatever, and I would say that it's not as hard to aim as other games because the movement in this game is pretty limited. So provided you do see someone first, you're able to get those kills. Okay, so another thing as well is that when someone does kill you, they are highlighted on the minimap red, so you'll be able to see them through the wall. So once you do get killed, you do have like a 5-second window where you'll know where they are. So if you're big on revenge, you can go and hunt them. Now, what that does mean though is that if you are on a bit of a kill streak, that means that multiple people are going to be able to see you through the walls. So I would say also it's a good thing, but just remember that people are going to be able to see you through the walls, okay, if you do kill them. So watch out for that, and don't think people are hacking if they're able to see you through the walls, because for the 5 seconds after, they're usually able to see you. Okay, so just remember that that is a real thing. So I mean, other than that, the game is just a super fun game, to be honest with you. I think the game is just super fun. There's just like one-shot kills. The secondary is 2-shot kills, which is pretty useless, and the knife, it is pretty hard to get knife kills, honestly. So it completely depends on your playstyle. I've tried to get knife kills, but it is pretty hard because of how slow the knife is. The slash is pretty slow. And other than that, I mean, there's not really much to the game. I mean, you can get money, every time you get kills, but the only things you can really get is just, basic cosmetics and stuff like that, which don't upgrade your damage or do much other than that. Now, of course, if you want to go ahead and spend it, you can, go to the shop or whatever,